Okay, in today's video, I want to talk specifically to the freelance videographers that are out there. Maybe you've just started out as a freelancer, maybe you're hoping to start your own small business, and you have a question about what your contract should include when you go and land your first few clients. Now, full disclosure, I am not an attorney, so you want to make sure that you have a good lawyer at your disposal to get some sound legal advice on this. However, in this video, I'm going to give you a few things to think about as jumping off points when you go in to meet with that attorney so you know exactly what to put in your contract. I spent over 10 years as a freelance videographer, worked with a number of different clients, and so through trial and error, through different projects, I learned what I should include in my contract. Now, whatever has worked for me may or may not work for you, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments along with any questions you might have. Okay, let's get started. Here's what you should include in your contract as a videographer. Number one, you want to include an approval schedule in the contract. Now, sometimes your video production is going to go through several different phases, all the way from the creative conceptualization of the video all the way through final delivery. So what you want to do in your contract is you want to specify different approval stages, telling your client that you can't move forward on the project until the client signs off and approves each stage of the production. Why is this important? Well, you don't want to get into the shoot itself and then have your client decide that they want to change the entire concept. Or you don't want to get into the edit only to find out that your client wants to rework the entire script or maybe even the entire tone of the video. And so by getting your client to sign off on every stage of the process, there is no confusion and you can ensure that both you and your client are on the same page and moving forward in a productive direction. Secondly, you want to make sure that you include a fixed number of revisions in the contract with your client. Now, I learned this the hard way when I was first starting out. I was in my early 20s, I was a freelance videographer, and I just landed a really great client who gave me a fantastic opportunity. However, I neglected to put in my contract that I was only going to do a certain amount of revisions. And what ended up happening was that the post-production process continued to drag on and on and on, revision after revision after revision with no end in sight. You definitely don't want this to happen to you because time is money. So what you would like to do in your contract, what I did after that, was fix the number of revisions for my clients at 3. So that way, going into the project, the client knows that they have 3 rounds of revisions to go through. So that way, they can be more focused with their feedback, and the post-production process will be a little bit shorter for you, and also you're going to make sure that you don't start losing hourly wages by spending more and more time on the video edit. A third thing I like to include in my contracts with my clients is exclusive rights to the footage. Now, everything that you shoot for a client is going to be part of their promotional video or commercial or web video, whatever it is that you're producing for them. It's going to belong to them. But what I like to do, and a lot of other videographers and photographers do this as well, is that they give the client exclusive rights to that footage for a set period of time. You and your client can negotiate what that time frame is. And after that period is up, you as the videographer are then free to use that footage again however you see fit. You might want to sell it as stock footage and earn some extra money. Or you might be able to reuse some of that stock footage that you've captured in another client's video. So whatever it is, make sure you put into that contract a fixed exclusive rights period so that way you can again use the footage later. Another item to think about including in your contract with your client is the right to promote yourself using the footage. Now, some clients have very specific requirements when it comes to how you can promote yourself and your business with their material. Sometimes if you're shooting a video strictly for corporate internal use, you might not be able to use that video in other places. However, if you're able to and you can negotiate this with your client, I like to put in my contracts a clause that says I have the right to use this footage and this finished video as a way to promote myself. So whether you have a Vimeo page, personal website, however you present yourself online, you can then make sure that you can use that client's final video that you've done and use it for your own promotional purposes in order to get new business. Otherwise, the client may not be okay with you using that finished video on your own demo reel. So make sure that is ironed out before the process begins. Here's something really, really important that you need to include in every contract with your clients, and that is a termination clause. Now, invariably, this is going to happen. You're going to get right up to the point of production, everything is going great, and for whatever reason, the client pulls the plug on the project. Maybe you've already shot everything. Maybe you're in the process of editing. You've already spent a lot of time and money on crew, on equipment, and then all of a sudden the client calls you up and says they're no longer pursuing the video. What are you going to do then? Well, if you have a termination clause in your contract with your client, you can get paid for the time you've already invested up to that point. So normally what I would do is I would tell the client that if they terminate the project, whatever point we are in that video production, I will then get paid for the time and expenses that I've incurred up to that point. And finally, a very important line item that I like to include in my contracts with clients is a payment schedule. Now, every freelancer knows that from time to time, cash flow can be a real problem, but you can help mitigate that by including a payment schedule in your contracts with your clients. I would advise that you not wait until the final video is delivered and distributed and then ask for payment. What you'd want to do is get some payment throughout the entire process to make sure that your cash flow is continuous. Normally, you will want to get a deposit up front before you start any work. This will help cover your time. This will also help you cover your initial expenses of crewing up for your job and also renting any gear that's necessary for your job. The rest of the payment schedule can be divided up depending on the size and scope of the project. If it's a fairly small job that only requires a day of shooting, you might want to have a deposit, and then another installment once the shooting day is complete, and then the final installment once the video is delivered and approved. However, if the project is going to be a lot larger in scope, you might want to further subdivide that payment schedule. So you might want to have that deposit up front, but then you might want to have different payments that come due during different phases of the production process. So be sure to work it out with your client, but be specific and make sure that it works out both well for you and for the client, so you can make sure that you get paid throughout the process and don't have any cash flow problems. And that's it. Those are just a few line items that I like to include in my contracts with clients. If you have any other suggestions or tips, things that have worked for you, or other pitfalls to avoid, be sure to leave them in the comments below the video. Or if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, you can connect with me on my website at clinttill.net. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.